Welcome, everyone, to the Better Love Movement podcast, where you will finally learn how to intentionally do dating and relationships right. My name is Anita Stoudemire, and I'm a licensed professional therapist and your personal love mentor. I've worked with thousands of singles and couples, giving them the skills needed to attract and keep the amazing love they desire. It's my heart's work to help people to get the skills needed to not only become the very best versions of themselves, but to help them grow and evolve emotionally and relationally. You can absolutely have the romantic relationship of your dreams. Come and let me show you how. Hey everybody, it's Anita with Better Love Movement, and today we are in episode 55. It is entitled Feminine Communication Skills. And this will not be the only episode that I do on this topic. There is just so much to say, and because I don't want this episode to be 2 hours long, I'm going to start off giving you a few feminine communication skills for you to start using, and then I'm going to do another podcast episode and maybe do a part 2, a part 3, just give you a little more and then a little more and then a little more. That way you can really start practicing these skills. They do require practice. Every now and again, I even find myself kind of reverting back to my old way of communicating with men. If I get triggered or caught off guard, I find myself reverting back. And I know those ways of communicating with men don't work. So I immediately kind of check myself. I immediately say, this is not going to work, or this is not the way in which to communicate with this man. This is not going to lead us to the best possible outcome. It's definitely not going to lead us to deeper intimacy. And the entire idea behind feminine communication skills, learning how to be in your feminine and how to express yourself from that state, is really number one is getting you the result that you want. That's the first thing. And number two, being respectful to the man that you're communicating with. That's really the most important part of some of these skills that I'm going to teach you. Because if you have been listening to me, you understand that there's two things that a man needs more than anything. The two things he needs, like he needs air. Number one, he needs respect. And he needs to feel respected by his woman, by you. That's the first thing. And right behind that, a close second is he needs to feel appreciated. He needs to feel appreciated for what he's doing, what he's bringing, what he's providing. And so because we know number one and number two, that's how we're going to approach our men or any man in our life, there's ways in which we communicate with them. And that's going to ensure that we get the best possible outcome. That's going to ensure that we get the best out of this interaction. So remember, those things are number one, that we have good outcomes with men, that we get what we want. And number two, that the man feels respected. And some people would swap that. Some people would say, well, number one, the man should feel respected. And number two, we get the best possible outcome. Doesn't matter. You could flip it around however you would like, but those are the two things that we're going for in learning these feminine communication skills. So, 90% of all communication between human beings is nonverbal. It's body language, right? It's the way we look at each other. It's gestures and postures and arms cross and, eyes rolling and facial expressions and hand on hip. And, so it's all these ways in which we communicate with each other that are not words. And that is coming from like thousands and thousands of years ago, maybe before man even knew how to speak words. So we are communicating with each other all day long non-verbally. And you, as a feminine energy woman, you are no different when it comes to communicating with your man. So, in one of the episodes where I talked about lessons in flirting, you are going to use these skills. You're going to hone these nonverbal communication skills in which to signal a man that you want him to come over, that you want him to come closer, that you want him to approach, that you want him to initiate, right? And so we're going to use our nonverbal communication to also exhibit respect to the men in our lives. So we have to be very careful because for a lot of us, that nonverbal communication is not something that we're intentionally aware of. Like a lot of us suck our teeth, roll our eyes, roll our head around, get our neck working and all of that, like when we're talking to a man. And a lot of it is so second nature, we don't even realize that we're doing it. But anything that exhibits disrespect, we need to be very intentional about. We need to check ourselves on that. So it's just like if you took any type of communication class and they talked about the importance of not having your arms crossed, right? So you have to do this on purpose. You have to be very present, focused, and centered and intentional and being aware that, you're crossing your arms, you're crossing your legs, your facial expressions. So this is going to require that you be present focused when you're talking with your man. Some of this may catch you off guard, especially if something happens that you didn't expect, and you're more reactionary as opposed to responsive. But when you have the opportunity to respond and not react, I want you to be very present, focused, and be very aware of your body language. And say to yourself, okay, I am on the inside of me, I'm not looking at me, but based on how my body feels right now, based on the thoughts that I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what could my body language possibly be sending out right now? So you have to kind of do this on purpose and just be aware, am I hand on hip and eyes rolling and neck moving and all of that? Is my voice, instead of being calm, am I raising my voice? Am I yelling? Am I screaming? You have to be very present and intentional when you're talking about body language because, like I said, so many of us do things and we're not even aware that we're doing them. That's just how we are. That's just how we do. So some of this will require that you be a little more intentional, a little more present, focused, and kind of be aware. Okay, I have this thing that I do with my eyebrow, or I have this thing where I move my head, or, I roll my eyes, or I suck my teeth, or whatever that thing is that you believe may be sending a nonverbal signal of disrespect. Of, okay, yeah, right. I heard this before. Any body language that is saying that, be very mindful of that. Be very intentional about kind of checking yourself about that. So that's the first thing. Our body language speaks volumes. It really, really does. When I'm out with a man, I make sure that my body language is very open. I'm a fidgeter by nature. That's, I believe, my ADHD coming out, but I'm a fidgeter by nature. So I have to be very, again, present and very focused on, okay, I want you to stay still. I don't want you to tap anything. I don't want you to, tap your foot, tap your hand. I don't want you to fidget. So I just try to be very aware of that I have this tendency to fidget. And move things around, move body parts around that shouldn't be moved, that I should just be sitting still, and I am giving eye contact to the person who's speaking. I'm smiling. I try to make sure that I am smiling and nodding when necessary, and just no arms crossed, arms to the side, and just letting the person know that I am open and yet I'm actively listening to them. So practice this. You can practice these skills on anybody, not just men. You can practice them at work. You can practice them with your family members, with your kids. Practice these skills so that you appear very open and receptive, and you are actively listening, you seem interested. Kind of practice these skills with everybody. And then definitely when you're out on dates or when you're with your guy, just be more aware of what could your body language be saying, and is it disrespectful? That's the first thing. So the disrespectful body language is going to sometimes even precede the words that you're using. So you have to be very, very aware of that. Let's talk a little bit about the words you may use. So there are lots and lots of phrases and things that men love to hear. And I am going to attach a PDF that you can download if you're listening to this from the website. Or you can head over to the website, www.betterlovemovement.com, and you can download this PDF. And I am going to give you maybe 10 or 15 phrases. It's what I call the words every man longs to hear from a woman. And just, get familiar with some of these, because these phrases, these words, they affirm a man. They exude trust, which is something that men really, really enjoy. They want to feel as if you trust them. And again, this is not necessarily for the men that you're just beginning to go out with, you're just dating. I still believe you can give an air of, okay, I don't know you yet, but at the same time, not appear distrustful. Like, to me, there's a fine line between a man I've gone out with once or twice, and I can appear as if, not necessarily that I fully trust him, but I don't want to come off as distrustful. So there's kind of that right in the middle of the road, like, okay, you tell me something and I'm like, uh-huh. So it's not like, oh, yeah, right, sure, I hear this all the time. Yeah, what's the likelihood that that's true? Not that, okay? And not a gullible, really? Oh my gosh, you did? Oh, I can't believe it. Wow, that's amazing. That's coming off a little too gullible. I'm believing everything you say, and the reality is I don't know you. So there's kind of this space right in between where it's not coming off distrustful, but it's not coming off as if I fully trust you and I just met you. So that's the sweet spot that I tell a lot of women. Until a man has really proven himself by being consistent, we're not going to come off as distrustful, but we're not going to be completely naive to everything that he's telling us as truth or as fact. So I digress. But I want you to download this PDF, get familiar with some of these phrases, but I'm going to give some of them to you now. One of the things that I learned from reading John Gray's book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, is, and I 100% agree with this, where he was saying, a man just wants to feel your trust, and he wants you to kind of validate that what he's saying totally makes sense, right? There's something about him sharing information with you, or sharing what he's doing or where he's going or what's happening, and you responding with, yeah, that totally makes sense, right? It's something as simple as that makes a man feel validated, as if you trust him. It just makes him feel good. So saying something as simple as, when he's explaining something or he's sharing something, well, yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I get it. Just saying that goes so far. It really, really does. Men also want to hear that they're doing something right, that they're getting it right. And remember, we're using the phrase feels good. You know what would feel good? So if you want to stop a man in his tracks, this is a wonderful feminine communication skill. I want you to say that phrase, especially it could be a new man that you're dating. It could be your current boyfriend, fiance, husband. I want you to just one day when you and he are driving, riding in the car, or you're out somewhere, or you're sitting on the couch watching television. I want you to just turn and look at him and say, you know what would really feel good? And then pause. Pause for effect, like count to 2 in your head. And more than likely, he's going to say, what? Men are innately curious. And you have now opened the door to expressing what would feel good to you. That is magnetic to a man. So now, because he's innately curious and you've talked about feeling good, he's like, what? And then say what would feel good to you. But even expressing yourself from that standpoint, from what feels good to you, what you would really enjoy, something that you desire, using words like that, that is the feminine expression of, I have a desire. And even if that man is not able to make that desire come to pass, just knowing what it is, is very attractive. And who knows, he may try to make that desire become a reality, or you saying, you know what would feel good? And then you share with him and he's like, oh wow, yeah, that would be great. I mean, that gets his wheels churning. Because remember, more than anything, a man wants to please you. He wants to get it right. He wants to do things to make you happy. I tell so many of my couples that come in when the wife says, oh, he doesn't care anything about me. He, doesn't pay any attention to me and doesn't care anything about me, or, this and that. And I tell her, let me tell you what is a man's number one motive in this world. I have heard it thousands and thousands of times with thousands of husbands and fiancés and boyfriends that sit on my couch. And when I say to them, what's the one thing you want more than anything, for this relationship? And 98% of them all respond the same. I just want her to be happy. That's a powerful statement. He just wants you to be happy. So honestly, it is your job to show him how to do that. And you don't have to spoon feed him. You don't have to give him everything, but you can put some things in his mind through your feminine communication skills. You can say, you know what would feel really good? And then say something that would feel really good. Or you know what I would love? One of the things that I desire most, this type of language just pulls him into a place that he can't get to on his own. Only the feminine can bring him to this space where she's about to share what would feel really good. And the thought of him being a part of that, it's just amazing. And so, ladies, this type of communication, it's respectful. It is very attractive, but it's also assertive. And I believe that as a feminine energy woman, you can be assertive. You should be assertive, not aggressive, not, telling him everything to do, how he should do it, down to the letter, do it this way, do it that way, go here, do this, buy that. No, I want you in your feminine energy state to allow him to put his personal spin on it, to figure out based on you leading him there and saying, you know, it would feel good. Let him put his personal spin on it and then praise him when he gets it right. Because at the end of the day, he's not a robot. He's not, he's not a robot. He is going to take whatever you give him, but he's probably going to put his own personal spin on it. He's probably going to add his own effects to it in the way that only he can. And that's wonderful. I want you to be open to that. I don't want you to be so rigid with what would feel good and giving him every single solitary detail. I want you to give him an idea, a thought, and then let him take off with that. And let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. But that's something that if you have something that you want, something that you desire, just using the words, you know what would feel really good? And then you tell him what would feel really good. And that's it. You're just planting a seed there and allowing him to figure out how he could be a part of making you feel good. Because after all, that's what we want. We want to feel good and we want our man to be a part of it. It was somewhere that I read where a man wants to see his woman happy. He wants to make his woman happy. But at the same time, he does not want to be the sole reason why she's happy. He does not want to be the sole provider of the happiness because, again, that implies that, she needs him to the point where, she's not bringing the happiness. She's not bringing the joy or bringing the bliss. Ladies, I believe it's our job to find that happiness, find that joy and that bliss within us, and the man adds to it. He adds on top of it. So you bring the love, you bring the joy, you bring the happiness, and the man adds to it. Like we already bring it, and he adds on top of it. But just saying something as simple as, you know what would feel really good, that will draw a man in. There's something very intoxicating about that. That just draws him in. It brings him into that feminine space that he doesn't get to come into very often. And that's a really wonderful place to be. Another tip I'd love to give you is, it's called making him right for being wrong. And that's basically where your man or a man has done something that's irritating or annoying, and you may not like it, you may disagree with it, you may not want it, but I actually want you to make him right for being wrong. So even though he may have done something that was not the right thing to do, I want you to validate very respectfully that he had every right to do it. That he had every right to be late. He had every right not to call. He had every right to do anything that just irritates you, annoys you, left his towel on the bathroom floor. He had every right to forget to take the trash out. He had every right to fill in the blank. Whatever that thing was that happened, he had every right. And after you let him know, you told me you were going to call last night and you didn't. And, you have every right. You have every right not to call when you say you're going to call. But then you're going to follow up with the feminine consequence, which is, but I'm not comfortable with it. Or I won't tolerate it, or I won't stand for it. Like, let him know what the consequence of that behavior is. Because it is good and respectful to let him know, as a grown man, he has every right to do that. Heck, if your man was unfaithful, if he texted another woman, you can even use it then. You have every right to text another woman. But I'm not going to tolerate it. I'm not going to stay in a relationship with a man who does that. See, that is the feminine way. You are bringing the feminine energy consequence, which is, I am not comfortable. I am not going to allow someone to do that I'm in a relationship with. I'm not going to stay in a relationship with a man who does that. That is the respectful way in which to express to a man that something that he's doing is not going to fly. It is not going to be acceptable to you. But he has every right to do it. And I've talked this way to my children. Sure, you have every right not to clean your room. You have every right not to do your homework. You have every right not to do your chores. But I'm not going to tolerate it. And then I give the consequence. So that way they know that yes, because I'm not them and they're not me, I'm not inside their body and they're not inside mine. They're going to do some things that I don't want them to do, or, they're not going to keep up with their chores or their room, and they very well can not do that. But there will be consequences to their actions. And you're going to communicate that to a man the same way. Because again, he is a grown man. We want to be respectful, and yet we can still be assertive in the consequence for that particular action. We can still just say what the consequence is. Now, ladies, if in fact there is a consequence, you must bring the consequence. So if this gentleman is, texting other women and that's not something that you will tolerate or allow in the relationship that you're in with him, then no longer be in the relationship. You may have to, as I say, give him the gift of your absence, because he has to understand that's not going to fly. That is not acceptable for you to be in a relationship with a man who is doing that. And yet he has every right to do it. So this technique, and I shouldn't even say it's a technique, it's just a feminine communication skill, which is make him right for being wrong. He has every right to do what he's doing, but you're not comfortable with it. And then you can bring a consequence from your end. Again, we can't control him. We can only control us. So I'm not comfortable with it. That doesn't feel good to me. That doesn't feel appropriate. That doesn't feel acceptable to me. That's it. And he has to understand that you, being a whole separate person from him, you have every right to do what you're going to do too. So if I'm dating a man and I've made it very clear that it's my intention to be married one day, it's my intention to have a marital commitment, and that man a year, 2, 3 years in is not doing that, doesn't want to do that, that's okay. I tell that man, you have every right not to want to be married, not to want to get married. And I am not comfortable with it. This is not a relationship that I can continue because that is unacceptable for me. And then I exit stage left. That's all I can do, is do what's best for me. And I don't need to manipulate him into wanting what I want. I don't need to, convince him. I don't need to do any of that. I just need to do what works for me. And I believe if this man loves you, cares about you, wants to be in a relationship with you, again, remember, 98% of my good, healthy, masculine men want to see you happy. They want to be a part of your happiness. And so they're going to do whatever it takes to see that happen. It's the reason why husbands and fiancés and boyfriends are in my office. They show up on my couch. Because I can tell you right now, there are not a whole lot of men out there just saying, yeah, I just feel like going to couples counseling and talking about my feelings and talking about all of our problems. No, they're doing that because the woman is like, we have issues and I don't know if this relationship can continue unless we talk with someone. And they do it. So clearly, your happiness and you staying around and staying in this relationship means something because they are doing something about that. They are in kind, saying, okay, well, then I guess I'm going to have to go to couples therapy, or I guess I'm going to have to talk to somebody because, again, they want to be a part of seeing you feel better, seeing you happier. So that is the way in which you express it, that they have every right to do what they're doing, and yet I'm not comfortable with it, or I can't stand for it. I can't tolerate it. I can't, put up with it. And I can't be in a relationship with someone that's doing this behavior. What do you think? And remember, ladies, when we're expressing how we feel, because the biggest feminine communication skill of all is we're going to stay on our side of the street. And that simply looks like I feel, I felt, or I'm feeling. Okay? I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling taken for granted. I'm feeling like I'm not a priority for you anymore. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling confused. I'm feeling frustrated. We are allowed to express how we feel about the action or what is taking place. And when we come from when we come into the conversation with we are owning how we feel about it. And then after we express how we feel, we ask him, what do you think about it? Or what do you think about that? And then the most important part of all is you listen. You listen. You're quiet and you listen. And you listen to understand, not to respond. And when he's done, you say, okay. And you may even say, so what I'm hearing you say is, just to make sure you understand what he said. And you may continue to talk about how that makes you feel. Now, this will require vulnerability on your part. It will require you to go inside of yourself to see how you feel. So many of my ladies don't even know how they feel. They know how to attack. They know how to tell the man what he did. And, I can't believe you did this, you, and you always, and you never. They know how to do that. But I want you to turn that around to you. Because I think he knows what happened. I think you both know what happened. So if you caught him texting another woman or on the phone with another woman, you both know what happened. We don't need to say you did, you, I can't believe you. We need to say, I am disappointed. I am devastated. I am so hurt and angry and confused. What do you think about it? What do you think about that? That's a stronger stance because it allows him to check himself. Like, you don't need to check him. You need to check you. You need to check in on how you're feeling about what happened and allow him to check him. And when you ask that follow-up, what do you think about that? That's the most important piece. That gives him a chance to turn it back on him and really check himself. What does he think? And then you're sitting there quietly listening. That speaks volumes. That is the way to get him to really just reflect in that moment. That has more power for him than you could ever have screaming, yelling, cursing, saying you did this, you did that. That is your power, ladies. That is your feminine power, is being able to express your hurt, your sadness, your confusion, your frustration, your anger, and asking him, what does he think about it? That is a really powerful way to get a man to kind of go inside of himself and reflect in that moment. But these are some of the tips that I give my ladies that helps them to stay in their lane, to stay with the feeling. And a lot of us, we're not even sure how we feel. That's a very uncomfortable thing for us to kind of stay in our feeling. But that is where your power lies. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about what happened? Express that to him and then ask him what he thinks. The last tip I'm going to give you is something that we women, we have a tendency to do. We assume, right? We love to assume things. We jump to conclusions and we make assumptions. But here's a way in which we can have a feeling about something, or maybe it's an assumption. But here's the respectful way in which to find out if it is true or not. Right? So sometimes we will get a feeling, and you ladies know what I'm talking about. We'll get a feeling about something, or we'll come in the house, something seems off, just something is off. And we have this feeling. And so usually we will go to our men and we will say, you are doing this or that, or you may feel this about this, or I think you feel this way. I think you feel that way. And again, we're back on you. But there is a way in which to express this feeling that we have. So something is off. I don't know. I'm just feeling like something's off. Or I'm feeling as if you're angry about something. But when we go to express what we think it is, here's the most important part. This is what keeps it respectful. We say what we think is happening, or we say something is off, we say something doesn't feel right, and then we follow it up with, am I right? ? So right there, that gives the man the option to affirm it or to say no. He can affirm or deny. Well, no, nothing's going on. I don't know what it is you feel. I'm fine. Nothing has happened. Nothing has changed. And then the hardest part of all is if he in fact does tell you that, even in your feeling, even in your gut, even in your instinct, and we should follow our instinct, I want you to let it go. I want you to let it go. And I don't mean let go of the instinct or the intuition you have. I want you to let go talking to him about it. So that looks like, I don't know, I have just the oddest feeling that something's off between us, or that you're upset about something. Am I right? Well, no, nothing's going on. I'm good. We're good. We're good, right? Everything's going okay. I feel good about us. I feel good. But yet you still have that nagging feeling. I want you to say, okay, well, if there's anything you feel like you need to talk to me about, please come to me. And okay, like I want you to accept it. Accept the answer that he gives you, even if your intuition or your gut tells you otherwise. Because again, we want him to check him, not us. At some point, if something is off or something doesn't, something just doesn't feel right, he'll either circle back around and he'll come to us, especially if he's mad about something. Men are famous for that. Oh, no, I'm fine. Everything's good. And then if you leave them alone, like if you accept that answer, it will come out. It will come out sooner rather than later. So trust that. Don't push. Don't try to dig it out of him. Don't continue to persist. Just accept what he tells you and go, okay, and walk away. All right. But, I just had a feeling that, something isn't quite right, or you seem angry, by the look on your face, by, you coming in and slamming things around and you're appearing agitated. You seem angry about something. Am I right? And if he says, nope, I'm fine, everything's fine, okay, I want you to accept it. Turn away from him, turn away from whatever appears to be the angry, whatever he's doing, and do something else. Do something else. Go somewhere else. Busy yourself with something else. But chances are, if something is going on, because see, now you're giving him a chance to self-reflect. Remember, self-reflection is key. That's more powerful than another person checking us, is us checking us. He will circle back around. He will come back around. Trust me on this. But I want you to give him that time and space in which to self-reflect and then come back around. So just accept his answer. Say, okay, good. Well, if there's anything you want to talk about, I'm here. And, that's fine. I'm here to talk if you want to talk, and then get gone. Like, leave it alone. Don't bring it up. Go do something else. Busy yourself with something else. Okay? But remember, ladies, respect. So as long as your communication is respectful, it may be assertive. You may tell the man what you don't want in order to get what you want. You may tell him what you need, which is very important. So I don't want to spend most nights alone. I don't want to be here in the house by myself. I don't want to eat dinner alone. I need to spend more time with you. I need to feel like we have a partnership, like we are in a loving relationship. I need to feel like we're a part of something, bigger and good for us. And right now I feel alone. What do you think? Okay, so as long as you're respectful, as long as you're staying on your side of the street, as long as you are owning how you feel, because a lot of women will feel angry or frustrated, but will not express these emotions because they believe they're too heavy, that the man can't handle these emotions. The man can handle all of your emotions, ladies. Now, he'd rather not handle you coming off as attacking, using words like you, screaming, yelling, cursing, assassinating his character. No, he doesn't want to deal with that. But to see you sad, or to see you cry, or to see you hurt, or to see you angry, legitimately angry. Yes, you have every right to display these emotions to your man, and you are going to own them. You're not going to be pissed about something, and when he says, "Oh, are you mad?" No, I'm fine. No, you're going to be like, I'm furious. I'm furious. I can't believe that this has happened. And I feel completely disrespected. I feel very frustrated. I feel angry. I don't understand. I don't feel good at all. I don't feel like I'm your cherished woman at all. Yeah, I want you to own all of those feelings, but state them from I. Ask him what he thinks about it and stay on your side of the street. And chances are he will reflect and he will check himself and may offer up an apology, may offer up some solutions moving forward. If you have solutions moving forward, or again, if you're giving consequences, you have every right to say, look, this is what I cannot tolerate. This is what I will not tolerate in a relationship. And so I cannot have you texting other women. I cannot have you, going into other women's DMs or liking other women's photos or whatever it is that you deem inappropriate and unacceptable. Again, this is for you. You have every right to set the tone and the standard for your life and your relationships. And then you say, what do you think about that? And either he can do it or he can't. And that's okay. I mean, again, you have every right not to. But I can't remain in a relationship like this. And then, ladies, you have to do it. You have to follow through on the consequence. I hope this was helpful. And again, this is the tip of the iceberg. I have many, many, many other tips for feminine communication, and I will share them again in another episode. But if you are listening on one of our platforms and you want to get a copy of the PDF, hop on over to the website, www.betterlovemovement.com. Find this episode under the podcast tab, and you will be able to download these phrases that every man longs to hear from his woman. And you will have this wonderful resource. You can kind of pepper your conversation with them. You will notice a huge change in your guy, that he's feeling all good and loved and appreciated and respected. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. And I thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do making it. And remember, stay open to love.